for this year's Social Action Week. Well, thank you for the opportunity for us to come together to learn, and that will help inspire us to make better impact in our community. We ask that, Lord, you would guide us, take control over every section. Lord, we ask that you grant utterance and your unction upon all the speakers today and tomorrow, and let everything go well. Let your name be glorified. For in Jesus' name I have prayed. Amen.
Amen.
And amen. So we are all welcome to Thrive. This is the Social Action Week, and in the UK, the Redeemed Christian Church of God, we have our Social Action Week every month in June. There's a week in which we focus on making impact in the community. And so in this week, this is the second leg of reaching out to youth, and within this particular conversation is what is more pertinent based on the feedback we've gotten from people who are youths within the Redeemed Christian Church of God, and perhaps even their friends who are not members of the Redeemed Christian Church of God. So let me stop sharing my screen now. I need to start. Okay, great. Thank you. So without further ado, we have our guests in the house. For today, we have Mr. Melch Olatunji, who is currently a medical student in Glasgow, and he will be sharing and speaking on the first topic for 20 minutes on how do I keep my faith as I go onto campus. While after he finishes, we'll quickly take Ms. Gladys Famoriyo, who is a publishing guru, a well-being specialist, a women's inspirer, an author, a speaker, and a coach. She will be speaking on what next after the university. And immediately she finishes, both of them finish their talk, we'll now take questions. So please, if you do have questions, you can give questions in the chats. And also, I would appreciate you each participant send me privately their email address. We want to continue this conversation even after now. So thank you very much. So Mr. Melchizedek, I welcome you. The floor is yours, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melchizedek, but much easier if you call me Mel. As Shala introduced me, I am 24. I'm currently living in Glasgow. I graduated 2018 biomedical science, top of my class, and I loved university so much that I decided to go again. So now I'm about second year medic student at Glasgow University. But I guess what most qualifies me to speak today is that I am a Christian who is unashamed of my faith. I am a Christian apologist, someone who is keen to share with young people about what Christ means to me and what Christ can mean to you and to friends all around us. So if you would allow me, we just spend about 20 minutes where I'm just going to run through some of pointers that I think will be useful in regards to keeping, and not just keeping, but growing our faith whilst in university. Just give me a second. I'm trying to share my screen. One moment, please. Okay. Can we all see that?
Yep.
Yes.
So point number one that I was going to stress, I think it is absolutely fundamental that one has thought about their faith prior to getting to university and really sat down and challenged themselves in discussing what it means to you. So I know maybe a lot of us, maybe when we were much younger, church was something that might have been something that we did out of compulsion. something we did on a week-to-week basis because we were told to, or maybe because that's where we would see our friends. And for me anyway, and I'm not sure for everyone, but first of all, for many people I've spoken to, they haven't really taken the time to really sit down and personalize what their faith means to them. So I guess that's what I'm trying to emphasize as being, I think, the most important thing to start off with, to take some time, some quality time, to really sit down and ask yourself exactly what are you doing, and so that your faith becomes something that is personal, that you're taking time to be introspective with. So some easy pointers prior to university, I think it is very helpful to have a disciplined routine or culture of fellowship with God. This could take the place of devotion. This could take the place of Bible study, youth study beforehand. But having that routine, having that attitude of this becomes an important part of my week or important part of my day beforehand, puts you at a great advantage before you actually get to university. It does what it does also. It allows you to go into university with the attitude of what I have. And when I say what I have, I'm referring to my relationship with Christ. The salvation that I have been offered undeservedly is special to me. And because it's special to me, I'm going to be intentional to nurture it and to grow it. Because I promise you from day one, be it Freshers Fair, you will be bombarded with a vast array of information, a lot of flyers, freebies, and lots of new cultures. It's an international setting, new ideologies, new learning opportunities. And if one isn't grounded in your faith prior, it can be very easy to lose yourself and to become confused or be distracted by what is available to you. I make reference to Matthew chapter 7, verse 24 to 27, which speaks about the parable of individuals who built their houses either on sandy foundations or on the rock. And when I say the rock, I'm referring to Christ himself, who is the rock of ages. And we see that when times get tough, during difficult weathers, during times of temptation, times of need, of vulnerability, those who built their houses on the rock, on Christ, stood firm and stand strong. And that, I'm confident, can be your experience in university if, first of all, your foundation is set and your foundation is personal and you've thought about it and you've been introspective. That's point one. Point number two, I was going to refer to, is to pursue godly friendships on campus. I think for me, this is the most practical point that one can adopt in regards to keeping their faith on campus. So from day one, if you can, please find people who are like-minded and who will hold you accountable to the word. Find individuals who have chosen to be faithful to Christ, to be faithful to the gospel, regardless of the persecutions or the self-denial that comes with embracing the gospel. I promise you, throughout the course of your degree, there will be times where you will need an arm around your shoulder. There will be times where you need counsel. There will be times where you are particularly vulnerable. And in these times, having a Christian brother, having a Christian sister is absolutely precious. It's beautiful, and it helps grow. You can both encourage each other. In conversation with a colleague I had while I was in university, during my first degree, she would share that it's commonly taught that university life is one in which you're surrounded with thousands of people on a daily basis. You're surrounded with so much energy, so much opportunity, countless opportunities to socialize. But for some individuals, it can also be quite a painfully lonely experience. So having good Christian friends that would encourage each other, like 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 11 shares, where which it advocates that we comfort ourselves together and edify one another. That I think is very important in helping to keep and nurture our faith whilst on campus. Point number three, I would strongly advocate that you find and actively engage with Christian groups and societies. For me, I will be honest with you. I was quite an introverted individual, so I did my own thing. First year, second year, it's very much my parents sent me to university to study and to do well, But in third year, that changed a bit. It changed quite drastically. And in third year, I became aware of a group called UCCF, so the Christian Union, and it's a national organization that it's found in many universities in Scotland and in the UK at large, and it forms a fantastic platform for students to come together, to worship, to study, to pray, to encourage themselves in Christ. And whilst in medicine, we have a group called CMF, which is Christian Medical Fellowship, and that's aimed at doctors or medical students who are Christians, and so that we can encourage ourselves. Because believe me, it can be quite a difficult place to be in for an intelligent person when you have to combat new ideas and quite strong differences people have with your faith. So having that core group of people or societies that you can engage with is very, very helpful. Speaking of the Christian Union, when I first went, I wouldn't lie, I had initial hesitations. I went in and I wasn't quite sure. I didn't know what to expect. But I'm begging you guys, to find it important to persist. So not just go the first time and be like, it's not for me, and back out. Not just go the second time, it's not for me, and back out. Trying 2, 3, 4 times. If it's not for you, try and find other alternatives. Don't just, give up and move on, Find yourself good Christian groups, good Christian societies that you can engage with. And most importantly, I promise you, this is one thing that will drastically change your experience. Is try and be actively involved in these groups. It grows a sense of responsibility. It grows a sense of some sense of leadership. You take your faith a lot more personally, because not only are you accountable to yourself, not only are you accountable to Christ, but also you're accountable to brothers and sisters as well, to unbelievers, in nurturing them and bring them to the faith as well too. So it completely changes your experience, makes it a lot more fun, a lot more engaging. I think one more thing to stress, it'd be fair to say that we are, I think a lot of us in this group call are from an African background. And so when we think of church, when we think of Christian settings, we are used to being surrounded by familiar faces. We are used to being surrounded by, I'll be frank with you, black faces, the majority. But when you leave your comfort zone, your circle of influence, when you go into the bigger world, when you go into settling university, that is most definitely not the case. It's a much more international group. It will not be the case when you join other societies. It will not be the case when you join Christian groups in university. You will see a wide diversity of people. And what I'm advocating for here is that don't let that put you off. Christ unifies us all, regardless of our differences. See what brings us together is most important. See the need to invest in that relationship with other Christians as important, as opposed to whatever differences or that we might have with people. Please, these groups as well too, they are very keen to have you be in part. They want to be also inclusive as well too. So let your voice be heard. Please be involved. Bring change. Let it be a much more welcoming environment for everyone to partake in. My next point would be to set apart time. Now, I touched on this in my earlier on, but I think it is paramount that one prioritizes Christ and our relationship with Him before any other thing. If you can find in Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, it shares that seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all of the things will be added unto you. All of the good things, all of the Christ gifted things. Like I know you're in university, and you might be there with the mindset of, I'm going here to finish with excellent grades. I'm going here to finish with lifelong friendships. And it's very much possible, but it's also important that you go in there thinking, you know, I'm here also to learn and to further my relationship with Christ. And that is priority. If I seek that first, all of the things will be added to me. All of the things that I think are also important come along with it. You don't, it's not that you, in the pursuit of Christ, that one needs to sacrifice, or one will significantly suffer in the others. You can thrive in everything. You can thrive in many spheres. So yeah, please prioritize Christ first. Please don't get too busy that it takes you months or weeks before you realize, oh goodness, I haven't prayed in a while. I haven't done devotion in a while. I haven't attended Christian society in a while. I haven't, checked myself. Try and, like I said, so it's very helpful if one is in a routine beforehand, because when you get into university, it's easier just to continue with that. At uni, I promise you, it can be a very hectic period for you. There'll be times in which you feel like all you can do is just study and study and study. There'll be times in which all you can do is you have different demands with societies, groups, events, friends, just settling down, just day-to-day life, growing up. So it can be very, very busy, and there'll be times where it will be not so busy. So try and find a good balance in between, for which Christ forms an important part. It's consistent, discipline. It's important that we take that attitude. So yeah, set time apart. That's absolutely paramount. And my final point would be to find yourself a Christ-centered church. So please, when I will advocate to you when you get into university, if you can, first weekend, get your boots on, get your Bible in your hand, and let's go church hunting. If you can speak to friends who might be in that new city, who can recommend a good church, but find yourself a Christ-centered church, a home church base for you. And when I say Christ-centered church, I'm gonna list a few things that I think are important for one to focus on in choosing what church is appropriate for you, because this decision is very important. It can make or break several. Like I said, many of us at that age, at that point in life, are quite vulnerable, are quite impressionable. So it's important that we make the right decisions. So when I say a Christ-centered church, what I would advocate for you is to pay attention to the quality of the word. That should be foremost. So when you get into church, listen, be particularly careful to listen during the sermons. Do not be distracted by gimmicks. Don't be distracted by gifts or this or that's going on. The word should be central, because this is what will spur the most growth. It's what will keep you grounded. This is what will further your relationship with Christ. So pay attention to the word. Point number 2, please pay attention to the actions of the leaders in those churches. So if what you should be looking for are to see leaders who are God-fearing, both in what they share and what they put into practice. Find leaders who, for me personally, what I look for are leaders who live out what it means to lead through service, as is advocated in Mark chapter 10, verse 45, and that humility in being of service to their brothers and sisters in church as well too. That I think is a useful thing to look out for when church hunting. Find a church that can serve as a family unit for you, a church which if you don't go. If you're not in church 1 week or for 2 or 3 weeks, someone messages you. You understand that your absence is felt, because then you're more accountable. You feel loved. You feel part of a bigger unit, a second family. It can, and I promise you, it can be a very very instrumental experience, both in furthering your relationship with Christ and also just for normal day-to-day things, like where are the best place to get a haircut for a good price, where is a place to get food or shopping at a good price, but here and there, find yourself a family church. It's important. I will stress to you as well to find avenues to serve. Don't just go to church and go in and go out. Try and, if you can, be a worker in such a church. If you've got a lovely voice, or you can play the piano, you play the drum, please join the choir department. If you are technologically inclined or you're good with computers, please join us at the media department. We're looking for people to join. But try and be of service. Again, once you engage with service in that sense, again, it changes your experience. But I would again remind you: do not prioritize service over quality time in the Word. Yeah. So try and find a good balance in between those two. I'll just finish up. I'll finish off with a Bible verse from Hebrews chapter 10, verse 25, which shares that not forsaking the assembly of ourselves together, as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much more as ye the days approaching. So I find it is paramount for us to pursue a Christ-centered church. Like I said, this can be very helpful in nurturing and keeping your faith whilst on campus. So I would just summarize some of the things I've mentioned so far. So I said, first of all, it is important to establish your stance in Christ beforehand. It is important to pursue godly friendships on campus. It is important to find and actively engage. I highlighted actively engage. Please take it importantly, actively engage with Christian groups and societies. I recommended Christian Union because that's what I've tried and tested, and I can speak proudly of and confidently of. But find other alternatives for you that's also Christ-centered. Set apart time. It's important that one sets apart time and find yourself a Christ-centered church. And that in essence, I think are some good points. There are others I haven't mentioned, but they should guide you in keeping your faith whilst on campus. I think I have a minute or so. So in that time, what I'm going to do is I want to be careful not to be all doom and gloom. I want to encourage you or to share with you that university can be a very fun experience, and it is a very fun experience. It is a time in which a lot of us find out or establish our identity, what I stand for, what I don't stand for, things I can tolerate, things I will not tolerate, who I am, who I hope to be. You will make friends that would last you a lifetime. The very first week you get into class, some of your teachers will make jokes that you would even find your life partners in that classroom as well too. So it's a lovely place. It's a fun place. So don't go in there thinking, I'm scared. University, I could lose my faith. Be more encouraged that actually, what, it's a place in which I can grow in my faith and I can bring other people to Christ. Approach it with that mindset. Don't be afraid of the difficult questions that will come in universities. Some of those questions that I would advise you to have asked yourself as well too. Questions on like salvation, questions on issues of homosexuality, questions on issues of suffering. These are difficult questions that I would ask myself, and I promise you, if you're a Christian in university, people will ask you. And if you find it difficult to answer these questions, I've put up a site. It's called bethinking.org. And it's an excellent site, which it helps address some of these questions. And it's an interactive site which you'll be able to find a bit more clarity and a bit more support. If you're an art student or a science student or a sports inclined student, it's specific to each individual group. So if you have time, please make your way to this site and engage with it. And if you have any questions, you'll find my email address in the very first slide. I'm very keen to have a conversation with you and to continue this chat beyond today. So thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate the time and the opportunity to share. I hope you've been blessed and you've been better informed as to how to really keep our faith, and not just keep, but to nurture our faith whilst on campus. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Melch. Thank you so much. We'll go straight for it. Ms. Gladys Famoriyo will just jump into it. The next point is what next after the university. After I'm on campus, I've kept my faith. Now I'm about to leave the university. I'm going out, in quote, as it were, they used to say, into the world, as they used to say when we were on campus. They're going into the world. What should I do? So we can have now Miss Famoriyo, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm just going to share my screen and hopefully.
Okay.
Okay, hopefully everybody can see that. Okay, thank you so much, Pastor Olushola and the team for having me here. My name is Gladys Famoriyo, and I'm here to talk about what's next after uni. And in the limited time that we have together, I just want to share with you perhaps advice that I will give to my younger self. So between the ages of 16 and 24, based on what I know now, what would be the advice that I would actually give to somebody who's coming out of university? And to support you on that journey, I've got 4 principles, 4 life lessons that you may call them, that I believe that would make all the difference. And it made all the difference to me, and I trust that it will touch your life as well. But just very briefly, in terms of who I am as a person, I'm a coach, speaker, and an entrepreneur. I've been working with individuals because I'm all about personal transformation. I've been doing that for probably about 25 years now in one way or the other. And the books you see in front of you, I've written all of them, and I've self-published a number of them. And one of my passions in life is to help people maximize their gifts and their talents that God has given them in various forms. In fact, that leads me on to the next initiative that I'm also a founder of, which is the Multiple Income Women's Academy, where I'm supporting women understand what their, I call it their know-how, but it's really about your talents, your gifts, your expertise, your life experiences, and how you can convert that into something that can serve others, but also make a profit out of it as well. Because I think sometimes we get into I want to be a blessing. The bottom line is we do also need money as well. So it's about re-educating people and giving them the skills, and they can go online and find out more information about it. But, you know, I really loved, the previous session about university, because personally, I believe university rocked. I loved it so much that I actually went back 3 times. So I have a degree in biochemistry, a master's in information systems design, as well as a master's in publishing that I did in Cambridge a few years ago. And I actually loved it. And I think anyone who decides they're not sure whether they should go to uni or not, I think it's one of the best kind of environments to grow, to find yourself, to gain independence, to learn so much about yourself. And so if anybody's umming and ahhing about that, I would definitely encourage you to do that, because I know there's some younger audiences who are listening to this session. So for me, it was one of the best experiences I had. And I can relate to Melch, who said earlier on that he loved it so much he went back there a second time. No doubt you may even go back there a third and 4th time, we'll see. Okay, so let's dive into the lessons that I want to share. So these are lessons that I'm telling my younger self. So the first one is looking beyond your qualifications. Now, to some people, that might seem counterintuitive, because you're thinking, well, I've just spent 4 years or 5 years, plus I have 50 grand's worth of, loans to show for it. Why should I do that? Well, it's simple. The fact is the degree has literally given you some form of qualification. It's given you a training of some sort. But if we're to put our spiritual hat on, we also know that something has also been downloaded on the inside of us. So you have some talents, some gifts. So if you think of like an app, by the time you came to this earth, in fact, by the time you're already in your mum's womb, the app's been downloaded on the inside of you and it's rearing to go. And sometimes you may find, and it might be early on for some people to comprehend this, but you might, get that good job. You might, whether it be in the city or, you're earning lots of money and doing all this great stuff. But you might then discover that actually something's missing. It's not quite right. In fact, I call that phenomenon being like being in a bath with your socks on. It just doesn't sit right. Something's just not right. And it's really encouraging people to just start to look beyond their qualifications and think, well, could it be something else that Father will have any of us do with our lives? So, for example, I talked about the biochemistry, but, quite soon, as soon as I finished that, I'm like, it's not quite right. And I spent a number of years searching, and then I got into IT and a whole load of other things. But it's really about thinking about what God might have called you to do on this earth, and always keeping that in parallel with what you're currently doing, because what you don't necessarily want to do is suppress that. In fact, the win-win situation would be to be able to use your qualification and what the person that God has created you to be, so call it your jar of oil, and using the two together. Even though sometimes it doesn't always happen, you're not able to express that. So it's about thinking about, okay, thank God I've made it through my through the degree, I've got the qualifications, I've got my eye on jobs, interviews, and I want to climb that career ladder. But just keep in mind that there is so much more to you as an individual than just the qualification. It's one rung to your ladder, and there are other aspects of your life. Now, the second principle I wanted to share, and this is really follows on from that previous one, is knowing when to make a switch. Now, again, for some people who've just qualified, or maybe you're in it, you've already kind of planned in your mind, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And that's fantastic. It's great to have plans. But another thing that we also know in the Bible is, according to Jeremiah 29, that the Bible tells us that God also has a plan for our lives. And, sometimes there may be a dichotomy between the two. You want to go this way, and he's kind of like saying, go this way. And I think this is where, what Melch talked about earlier on comes into play, about when you spend your formative years at university, when you are spending time with God, seeking God for your life, or, all the different things that you're doing. So this is not a case of where you're forced to church as a youngster. This is you now exploring your relationship with God by yourself. It's also a good idea to learn the ability to start hearing what he's saying. So, for example, okay, yes, you might have qualified with one thing or the other, but what is he really saying? And I think it takes a very bold and courageous person to be able to say, okay, mum and dad, and this is the key one, because sometimes it's the mum and dads we have to convince, but, okay, I know I've come out with this, but I sense Father is asking me to do that, and then perhaps have them surround you with prayer and ask God to order your steps in terms of what you should be able to do. But I know, for example, in my own personal life, as I said, I've done 3 degrees, and I've lost track of how many qualifications in between. I'm also a professional coach. I've done CIPD training I've done a teaching qualification. I've done Bible school twice. I've done so many qualifications, in my life. And a lot of that has been birthed out of, just sensing something's, Father's moved. Okay, yes, I was doing X, Y, Z, but something shifted. Maybe that job that was giving you so much passion before has just kind of like gone out the window. In fact, for some people, by the time you qualify, you're actually decided, I'm not doing this for my life, kind of thing. So it's really understanding, being led by the Spirit of God, what Father might be telling you, because there's been occasions where I've actually heard Father say, time to go. And I'm like, what? You gotta be kidding me. So there's times whereby you're thinking, no. And then there's times where you just know, for example, maybe the well has run dry, there's issues at work, qualifications, no prospects, blah, blah, blah. It's a good time to really take time out and just seek God and say, Father, what are you doing here? And then be bold and courageous to do whatever it is, even though other people might say, you don't want to do that, So that's a lesson number 2, knowing when to make that switch when Father is prompting you on the inside. Now, lesson number 3, have a side hustle. Okay, just using, some lingo here. Now, this is one of the key things, for example, let me just backtrack. Back in the day, I mean, it sounds like it's a long time, but back in the day when I was at university, the options available to us, especially when we were studying, was, a Saturday job. So just like everybody else, I went and got myself a job in a Nocturne Circus in a nice shop. And, that was a badge of honor at the time. It was cool. However, we've moved on. That was, okay, I don't want to say how many years, but a couple of decades forward. We're now in an place where there's so much opportunity for us to use. Remember that jar of oil I talked about earlier on? That thing that Father's placed in your hand. In fact, another way of looking at it, and I always use this to say to people, when they're saying, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, I refer them back to Exodus 4:2, when Moses was saying, I can't do it. And then God said, well, what's that in your hands? And then, sometimes we just have to refocus back onto what's that thing that's on our hands. And so whilst he might be doing that milk, he might be doing his medicine, and I know it's onerous, you know, you might decide you're going to do something else. So for example, you know, you've done something like the website you put up. That's phenomenal. That's a blessing to so many people. And I think, you know, it's not just being silo-minded, it's looking at other opportunities. And I think in our day and time, there's just so much. With the internet, with technology, with all the devices that we have, there's really no excuse. In fact, one of the things that encouraged me during the COVID situation is seeing a number of young entrepreneurs come to play. Like that 9-year-old girl who, I think her mum was like a CBT teacher in school, and she decided to create PPE equipment for her local hospital, and they're benefiting from that. You know, you see other kids, you know, creating face masks, or, you know, some are baking cupcakes, not just to do the COVID virus, people are doing different things. So I think, you know, just at the back of your mind, you don't have to go down the route of a Saturday job or whatever, but just think about what you can use, because again, what we're doing is all about serving other people. So finding something that you could do as a side hustle, and perhaps, you know, support you financially as well. So for example, some people are good with websites. So could you design websites for people who are completely clueless and earn a little bit of money to support yourself? You know, are you good with your hands? Do you do hair? Whatever it is that you find to do, you know, the Bible talks about whatever your hands find to do. You know, I really do believe that's a really powerful thing for young individuals, because at that age we're so creative, and I'm going to say we, because I'm young too, okay? We're creative, we have abilities, we have so much to offer, and so don't suppress that. And, you know, I think university time, when you're going and when you're in there and when you come out, is a phenomenal opportunity to explore so many options, because those options are there, and they weren't there for me. For example, if I tell you that when I was at university, in fact, it's like the second or the third year is when computers came out. That's going back a way bit, right? And when we had things called floppy disks, you know, so it's great. So things have changed phenomenally, and I encourage people, get your creativity on, you know, and if you're thinking, I've got nothing, trust me, go and read the book of Genesis and Exodus, and you'll see, even when they were designing the tabernacle, God was saying he gave this one a spirit of X, Y, Z to be able to craft this, and gave that one another gift to be able to craft that. And I believe those gifts are still around, and God has given us all crafts to use. So find a side hustle that you can do so you can be a benefit, a blessing to yourself and to others, the body of Christ, and so on. Now, the last one is really about slaying in your lane. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, in this day and time where we have social media, you know, we've got people, we look at some people and they've got 100 million likes, as if the mind boggles. You know, they've got 20 trillion followers, you know, they've got the clothes, they've got the garbage, they look the part. And what a lot of us do, which is basically where sending them, you know, we're looking at them and thinking, well, I want to be like them. Well, my challenge to you is forget all that, and why not be the best you that you could be? You know, because we spend our lives trying to become a replica of somebody else. And yet when God formed and fashioned us in our mother's womb, he had a unique person in mind. And I think we do ourselves a disservice, and we do humans a disservice. And I say humans in general, not just the body of Christ, because when I suppress the woman that I've been called to be, and I withhold all my knowledge, my skills, my jar of oil, or whatever it is, it does somebody a disservice, because they don't get to benefit the God on the inside of me. So the challenge is forget about looking at what people are doing here, there, and everywhere. Slay in your lane and be the very best that you can personally be. So it's not about the likes, it's not about, you know, following other people or having followers and whatnot. It's about being the best. And we know that the Bible tells us that, you know what, when we do what we're supposed to do with our gift, it says it will make room for us and bring us before great men. You know, so that's a done deal. He's already said that in his word. So don't try and be a copy. And sometimes even when you're studying, when you're at university, so for example, we had some fantastic lecturers who were, you know, pioneers in the biochemistry world, and you were thinking, one day when I grow up, I'll be like him, you know, and maybe you've even got a job and there's somebody you look up to. And it's great to have people you aspire to be, but don't lose the essence of who God has created you to be, because you are somebody. If anybody remembers that video, that movie, you are somebody, you're somebody of value, you're carrying the a precious, think of what's been downloaded on the inside of you. You've got so much to offer. So make sure that whatever you do, you be the very best in your lane and just focus. And that's why I love what Paul said. You know what, no, actually that was Jeremiah who said, setting his face like a flint. But Paul said, forgetting the past, I'm set my eyes on the goal and just looking. And we need to really be like that, because time is short. We don't know when Christ is coming back, and we don't know when our time is up. Now we pray by God's grace that we'll all live the long lives and whatnot. But if there's anything this climate is telling us, who knows? Okay, so the key thing is here, it's about using what's in your hand and trusting that Father will order your steps in your way. And remember, along this journey, a lot of it, the foundation of all what I've been talking about, and the same thing with Melch as well, is about having that relationship with God. This is not by the time you get to university, you realize that this is not the relationship that mum wants you to have, or dad wants you to have, or maybe you've been hiding behind, the tales of mum and dad, but this is real. And for me personally, university is where I discovered God. It's like, okay, forget the days when you were forced to go when you didn't want to go, but now I discovered him, and it's like, whoa. And he really made a difference. And I just wanted to emphasize a last point as I round up here. Learn to use that time to hear God's voice. If God can speak to Samuel at such a tender age, he can speak to you as well, because these are some of the times where you're going to be forming, some really solid foundations. You're putting your own roots down as a young Christian. And you want to be able to know, the Bible tells us that, I think it's in Isaiah 30, that then you'll hear the voice of your teacher. So go this way or go that way. And from the time you're in university, from taking certain classes and doing this and doing that, but definitely by the time you leave, you're going to be faced with so many choices that you have to make. And you're going to have to say, okay, Father, what is it that you're saying? And what is it that you want me to do with my time here, both on campus and beyond? So in terms of wrapping up, summary, I just want to say, be the very best that you can be. You know what? Study like studying is the only thing that's going to get you through. And if you've crossed over and graduated, work as if that's the only thing that's going to get you through. But then throwing the God equation into that situation, and then act, like I said, without him, I am nothing. And to be honest, we are nothing without him. And you're going to discover that every step of the way, you're going to need him to support you. Next one is maximizing every opportunity you get. Now, as I said, back in the day when I was studying, we didn't have much. So much so that by the time I came back, to university, I think there was 15 years between the last master's and the next one. By the time I came back to university, it had changed. There was 24 hours library. I'm like, what? That was like heaven to me. I could stay in library 24 hours. Fantastic. It was amazing. The resources available. And while I was doing my master's in publishing, I could, I was actually had one of the other lecturers teaching me how to write fiction books. And I had another fellow doing this. And, there was just so much opportunity. Maximize it. If you're now in a job situation, the chances are they've got so much training. Please maximize all the opportunities God has given you, because you just don't know when those skills, knowledge, and so on will be useful. And the last thing, last thing to say is keep in mind what Father is saying. And sorry for the typo there, but aim to please him, because bottom line, we're all serving him. We're here for a purpose, and we're here to serve him. So in whatever career choice you make, it must honor him. It must serve him. And be bold enough to be able to present it before him and say, Father, you know what? I want to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm so sold out to hear your voice. You tell me which way I should go. Now, some people say, oh, but you've got a brain. You can make those decisions. Well, what you don't want to do, remember, these are lessons to a younger self. There are some mistakes I had made, and I wished I just sought Father's face as opposed to thinking, oh, I should be able to make that decision myself. So keep in mind what Father is saying to you, and be confident, be courageous, and be bold like Joshua, knowing when to make the switch and move over, because trust me, he's only taking you from Goshen into the promised land. So I pray that God orders your step and he uses you for his glory. Wherever you go, whatever you do, remember, arise and shine, for your light has come and the glory of God is shining all over you. Take care, and God bless you. Keep soaring in his image.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, that's it. Our two speakers made wonderful, wonderful presentation. It's either, I assume that it's either we all understood what they said because I don't have any question, or we don't understand what they said. It's either, but while I'm waiting for people that are trying to process it, I would like to ask speakers some questions, at least as a bit. I'll go first to Mr. Melch Olatunji. Now, you mentioned while making your presentation about when you get on campus, you need to choose your friends wisely. You need to choose Christian friends. Now, how do you actually make a choice? Because, like you rightly mentioned, a lot of people, even though you said even among Christians, not every Christian that you want to be friend with. So how do you choose based on strength, weakness, development, how to develop myself, the other person helping me than me, all of us becoming people who are not disorganized, not organized? I hope you get my question.
Yeah. So basically, what are the things that we should look at in choosing friendships?
Yeah.
So like I said, like in relation to what my discussion is today, friends that share Christian values should be point number one. And regardless of their personal differences or personality differences, that should unite us. That there's enough there that should unite us, and see enough similarities that should be encouraging and should be uplifting. I maybe I forgot to mention. I was going to highlight that also. Even though I've strongly advocated to befriend Christians, I would also encourage us not to just stick to Christian bubbles exclusively. I would advise that take opportunity of the vast number of people that you have available to you, vast number of skill sets that are available to you, and the opportunity to share the gospel. It is, I would, somewhat selfish that you keep it to yourself alone. It is not Christ-like. It is so please, in as much as you're looking for Christian friends, also try and befriend other people with the intention of sharing the good news. My decisions in regards to who is your friend is specific, is relevant to each individual. We all have different things that we look for in people that we befriend, but just again, Christ-like people who are of a similar goal with you. So ideally if you are in university, you want to succeed, you want to do well academically, find people also academically inclined. I always advise people to find people who are just as motivated or even cleverer than you are. It helps bringing you up. It helps encouraging you. It makes things a lot more achievable. Go in there with So those kind of traits. People who can share in love as well too. You want people who are loving. But again, all these traits are Christian. So you'll find these people in church. You'll find these people in Christian societies. You can find them by chance as well too. So.
Thank you so much for that. So the point you've made is that while we're trying to look for Christians, we should not only just stay in our bubble, try and be able to expand your network wisely, guided by the help of God, but also try to be able to. Now, before I ask the next question, Mr. Brother, I think Brother Perei raised his hand up. Are you still there? Please unmute yourself and ask your question, please. Brother
Hello,
Perei.
everyone.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, it's not a question. It's just a bit of like a contribution to the topic.
Okay.
I know the two the speakers they spoke a lot about staying in campus and also doing the right things to try and stand out. Just to add to that, the church has got resources. We've got people like even the speakers. These are people the young ones in the church could use as a mentor to get in touch with them. And I think that's one thing the church lacks just now. We don't have that reference point. So people are not coming. The young ones do not have people to fall back to go ask questions. And I believe in different churches, even in Scotland, there are so many people that they've got the right skills, they've got the right talent, but those people don't know how. They don't even know where to find them. So it's a mentorship thing. We need to try and there should be like a link where the young ones are able to contact somebody that's able to, talk them through certain things. It could be school, it could be, stuff like this. So what I'm saying in short is mentorship is really important, and I think it's something the church should embrace, so that we as young people would know where to go to if we need help in the church.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that wonderful contribution. And interestingly enough, we have even our speakers today, like Melch has said and Ms. Famoriyo has said, they are actually examples. And I think it's great that we are having this kind of conversation and this kind of a platform. I believe this is a beginning of that filling that gap which you are mentioning too, that we can forever, refer people to Melch or refer people to Ms. Famoriyo to please, as mentors. So thank you very much for that. Now, the next question I'll ask, while I've not seen anybody ask any question, is to our next speaker, Ms. Famoriyo, is you mentioned about after university, one of the things they could do is keep side hustle. Now, starting a side hustle based on talents or giftings. Now, how would you readily alluded to the fact that on campus there are quite a lot of, and the first speaker also alluded to that, it's quite challenging. There's work deadlines, there's, fellowship engagement, there's this one. How does one balance and, create a balance? Perhaps the person who is a student is not an very organized person, and now he has all these demands, and now he has to start. How would they be able to do it?
Okay. Well, you know what? I think prioritizing and time management is one of the key things you're going to have to learn very quickly at university, because, as you said, you have the university life, you have your own, there's church aspect of it, but there's your own personal spiritual development, and you might even have a job. But I think, the good thing is from memory, thankfully, every minute at university is not crammed with, activities. So, I remember back in the day, we had Wednesday afternoons off or whatever, and so on and so forth. So I think you're going to have to decide, because I know Melch also talked about being a worker in church, and, so there's that element you might want to throw in there. But I would say it's prioritizing. For me, God first. Okay, and when I say God, it's not workout or serving in church or going to church. It's God first. Okay, so my relationship. So that's a priority number one. So you might want to have a certain number of priorities in your life. Then obviously your lectures, you're there. Maybe, so for example, maybe you were in Glasgow, like Melch is now in Glasgow, he's there to study, so it makes sense to do that. So those are your priorities. So if you imagine you have a jar, okay, so a bit of coaching here, you've got a jar in front of you. What they normally say is you need to fill that jar every day. So they suggest you put your rocks in there first. So your rocks are your priority one. So making sure you get up and pray, you're going to classes, you might want to put in there sleeping, resting, and all those kind of things, because they're important as well. Then secondly, you put your smaller aspects of things, the smaller things in there. So for example, it could be your extracurricular activities and all the other bits and pieces that you want to do. And then lastly, they say to fill up that jar, you then add in the sand. So you've got the priority ones, the number ones first, then the smaller rocks second to fill in the little gaps, and then you top it up with the sand. So that's what they're saying there. So, but the key thing is don't go a bit too laggy. I know what Freshers Week is like. You can pick up so many flyers and be pulled here, there, and everywhere. Don't go too laggy. Set your priorities from day one and decide what it is that you want to do. Now, when I talk about the side hustle, I know some people would work even while studying. So I would encourage you to perhaps, instead of doing other things, decide if you want to make money or start an organization or do something like that, make that another priority while you're studying. But if you just Google time management, you can find lots of resources around managing your time. And you know what? If you've tried it one way and it doesn't work, change and try and find another way.
Thank you. Absolutely wonderful. It's great. It's been a wonderful time. Our time is running down. We have a countdown to the end of the meeting today. I want to thank especially our guests, our speakers, Mr. Melch, Olatunji, and Ms. Famoriyo. Now, I must confess, it has been under short notice so we really, really thank you very much that under short notice, you are still able to come to our aid and still be able to be a blessing. We believe that for those who will be watching this Zoom meeting or this Thrive conference, even after now, they will still be blessed by it. And these our guests today are still there as mentors, like one of our contributors mentioned. So if you're having any particular issues, now I announced at the initial that we should please give your emails privately to me. Only one person did that. So we need to continue with this conversation. Tomorrow, please, let's be on time. We'll be speaking about, tomorrow we'll be speaking, there'll be issues of emotional intelligence, coping with stress, coping with challenges, coping with like all the things we've had today. Sometimes it could be you could just get to the top, which you just want to chill. So that's what we'll be doing tomorrow, and we'll cap it up with Pastor Baj talking to us about racism, which is in line with what is happening across the globe currently. How do we respond to that kind of